Hey everybody, this one is called Do It Yourself No Social Security Number 2. It is a badge of slavery is what a Social Security number is. It's all coming from the Roman cult. Copies of these documents can be found in my private group at Yahoo called Administering Your Public Servants. I have YouTube videos that are videos of private information shares that show these and other court citations that are available for donation. Donations to support this work are appreciated. I prefer gold or silver coin, but as an extremely less desirable alternative, I can accept the IOUs, the Federal Reserve notes, the PayPal gifts, the checks, the money orders. Send me an email for particulars, and that last paragraph is for all the Satanist order follower revenue officers operating in their private capacity under the Federal Tax Lien Act of 1966. Anyways, this is a notice that I got a hold of. It says, notice to all workers and employees regarding the possession and use of Social Security numbers. There's no law requiring a person to have, obtain, or use a Social Security number to live to or work in the United States. Social Security number is a voluntary system. There's no legal requirement that an individual obtain or use a Social Security number. And it goes through and explains the law, and that's all what we're going to be talking about today. Public Law 93-579 provides that it shall be unlawful for any federal, state, or local government agency to deny any individual any right, benefit, or privilege provided by law because of such individual's refusal to disclose his Social Security number. And so, anyways, let's get in closer. And so this is a bigger shot here. And it says this notice must be posted in a conspicuous place where it can be read by all employees and workers. So this is supposed to be posted, but I've never seen it in any public place. Anyways, this is a letter from the Social Security Administration. It's been sanitized, so the whoever it was sent to has been removed, and the date is gone too. But anyways, it's written by this Charles M. Mullen, Associate Commissioner, Office of Public Inquiries. These Satanists try and hide stuff like now, and so I've had trouble getting them to provide anything like this lately, but it doesn't change the fact that it's not true. Anyways, it goes, this is in response to your letter concerning the requirement and use of Social Security numbers. The Social Security Act does not require a person to have a Social Security number to live and work in the United States, nor does it require a Social Security number to simply for the purpose of having one. However, if someone works without a Social Security number, we cannot properly credit the earnings for the work performed. Yeah, right. So they can't steal your money. We can't steal it. We can't steal it. That's exactly what he's saying there. Anyways, this is a letter from Commissioner of Social Security Dorcas Hardy in 1986. And so let's go to the bottom, which is the pertinent part. We do not have the authority to require an employer to provide or deny employment or services to anyone who refuses to disclose his or her number. This is a matter between the individual and the employer. Yeah, right. But I could tell you that I've been fired from more than one job for refusing to provide one. So that's these Satanists again, okay? And this is Social Security Administration 1999. And it's been sanitized. We cannot give you a Social Security card because Mr. So-and-so is not receiving federal aid or government assistance of any kind. Therefore, he's not required to have a Social Security number. So again, it comes down to, are you required to even have one? There's no law that says that anybody has to have one. And they're probably coming out with that stuff because the heat's coming down on the pigs because of their extortion racket. Anyways, there's no law that says anyone has to get or use a Social Security number. There is a regulation. We're going to talk about that. Regulations are for government employees only. A Social Security number is a number for a Satanic trust. No living soul has a Social Security number. It's all coming from the Roman cult, and we're going to go through that in detail. Every taxpayer is a Satanic trust having sufficient interest in preventing the abuse of the trust to be recognized in the field of this court's prerogative jurisdiction. And that's in rebolence. And the U.S. citizen equals Roman law equals Roman cult. This is D.C. Code located at 31 Stat 1432. And it says the legal estate to be in necessity use. Okay, so, and this is a summary of 5 pages of the Congressional Record dated June 13th, 1967, pages 15641 through 15646. Anyways, it says a citizen of the United States is a civilly dead entity operating as co-trustee and co-beneficiary of the Public Charitable Trust, a constructive cestui trust of U.S. Inc. under the 14th Amendment, which upholds the debt of the USA and U.S. Inc. Slater's protestations to the effect that he derives no benefit from the United States government have no bearing on his legal obligation to pay income taxes. Unless the defendant can establish that he's not a citizen of the United States, the IRS possesses authority to attempt to determine his federal tax liability. And that's U.S. versus Slater, Delaware case. It might be correctly said there is no such thing as a citizen of the United States. A citizen of any one of the states of the Union is held to be and called a citizen of the United States, although technically and abstractly there is no such thing. And this is more D.C. Code, which is was approved on March 3rd, 1901, 56th Congress, Session 2, at 31 Stat 1189. And Section 2, right up at the very front, it says, and be it further enacted that in interpretation and construction of said code, the following rules shall be observed, namely, the word person shall be held to apply to partnerships and corporations. Okay, so again, that's the only thing they have authority over. And they presume you're dead, okay, because everything under martial law is based on presumption. And so this is more D.C. Code located at 31 Stat 1230, Section 252, a presumption of death. And I'm not going to read it, but the point is it gives them the presumption that you're dead. And so then they can presume that you're the cestui trust until you defeat their presumption in a way that they like, or they'll railroad you. That's exactly what goes on. This is Tomlin's Law Dictionary, 1835 edition, Volume 2, under the definition of mort main. Yet still it was found difficult to set bounds to ecclesiastical ingenuity. That's the Roman cult, folks. For when they were driven out of all their former holds, they devised a new method of conveyance by which the lands were granted not to themselves directly, but to nominal PIPs, to the use of the religious houses, thus distinguishing between the possession and the use, and receiving the actual profits, while the season of the land remained in the nominal PIP, who was held by the courts of equity, then under the direction of the clergy. That's the Roman cult, folks. To be bound in conscience to account or tax to his cestui use for the rents and emoluments of the estate. That's taxes, folks. And it is to these inventions that our practitioners are indebted for the introduction of uses and trusts, the foundation of modern conveyancing. Well, it's still the foundation of modern conveyancing. If the Roman cult created the cestui trust, if the U.S. citizen is a cestui trust, then the Roman cult owns the U.S. citizen. If the legal estate in the United States is the cestui trust, then the Roman cult owns the United States. The Roman cult runs the so-called courts, wants to account for their rents and emoluments of their fraudulently created cestui trust. They want their extortion is what they want, the Satanist pigs. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to click the bell next to the subscribe button so that you're notified when there's a new upload. And don't forget to like the video. This is the front page of my channel, and notice the bell is right there. Arrow is pointing at the bell. You click the bell, a little pop-up will come up, and it'll ask you, you got to check a box and click OK to be notified about uploads. A tax is an impost, a tribute on the subject, okay? If you're a taxpayer, you're a slave. An excise, tallage in public law, taxation signifies the system for raising money for public purposes by compelling the payment by individuals of sums of money called taxes. Some general principles of taxation have been said to be the subjects of every state ought to contribute to the support of the government as nearly as possible in proportion to their respective abilities, that is, in proportion to the revenue which they respectively enjoy under the protection of the state. In the observation or neglect of this maxim consists what is called the equality or inequality of taxation. And that's Smith on the wealth of nations, his book, The Wealth of Nations, and it's cited in the Dictionary of English Law by Sweet and Maxwell, London, 1959. And this is the same thing that precipitated the War of Independence. He's combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution, unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation. This is taken from the Declaration of Independence. Pretended legislation is color of law for imposing taxes on us without our consent. That's all martial law, for depriving us in many cases of benefits of trial by jury. That's all martial law. This is taken from the Declaration of Independence. All statutes are only for government property. In other words, Dominion legislation, even though it deals with Dominion property, that's a Canadian case. Employment versus and Social Insurance Act, 1935. And that's the Privy Council, that's the pigs in England that are making these statements. And this is U.S. Constitution, Article 4, Section 3, Clause 2. The Congress shall have power to dispose of and make all needful rules and regulation respecting the territory or other property belonging to the United States. If you read any of these antebellum, means prior to the Civil War, cases involving slavery, the debate was always over property rights. If you are property, you are a slave. The taxing power, being in its nature unlimited over the subjects within its control, would enable the state governments to destroy the above-mentioned rights. If you are taxes, then you are slave. Taxes equals slavery. If they can take a penny, they can take it all. All subjects over which the sovereign power of the state extends are objects of taxation, but those over which it does not extend are exempt from taxation. This proposition may also be pronounced as self-evident. The sovereignty of the state extends to everything which exists by its authority or its permission. If you are a taxpayer, you are a slave. You are property. You have no rights. That's McCullough versus Maryland, U.S. Supreme Court, 1819. The privileges and immunities of citizens of the United States do not necessarily include all the rights protected by the first 8 amendments to the federal Constitution against the powers of the federal government. The only absolute unqualified right of a United States citizen is to residence within the territorial boundaries of the United States. If you're a U.S. citizen, you're a taxpayer. If you're a taxpayer, you're a slave. You have no rights. Hello? Civil rights under the 14th Amendment are for federal citizens and not state citizens. Federal citizens, as parents, have no right to the custody of their infant children, subject to the paramount right of the state. Capitis diminutio, meaning diminishing a status through the use of capitalization. In Roman law, diminishing or abridgment or personality or loss of curtailment of a man's status or aggregate of legal attributes and qualifications. Capitis diminutio maxima means maximum loss of status through the use of capitalization. Okay, this is all Roman law. This is coming from the Roman cult. The highest and most comprehensive loss of status. This occurred when a man's condition was changed from one of freedom to one of bondage. When he became a slave, it swept away with it all rights of citizenship and all family rights. And now another little diversion. Boy, it's a good thing that came along because I was starting to get worked up. Announcing a subscription-based YouTube channel called Sovereignty International. The recommended cost of the subscription is $1.99 a month because it avoids the advertising only. That's the only thing I can really guarantee. And the reason is that because my agenda is to expose the fraud and deception by these New World Order Satanists. And so there's nothing that I can think of that I want to have exclusively on that channel. Now, I do have a few exclusive items. There's a Arlington private information share, and I've been uploading lately some training videos on how to modify the paperwork for your own situation and prepare it, and also what the reasoning is behind some of the things that are in the paperwork. And so there's this, I've been uploading training videos. I got a lot more in mind that I'm planning on uploading. And so that's about the only stuff that I'm going to have on there exclusively that I can think of right now. But if you want to make $1.99 a month donation, it is certainly appreciated. It's a modest donation, there's no doubt about it, but a whole bunch of people chip in a modest donation, and it adds up pretty fast. And YouTube is now screwing everybody on their advertising revenue, so you know, it would certainly be appreciated. But again, the bottom line is that the only thing I can guarantee is there won't be advertising on this channel. I'm currently publishing 3 videos a week, and I have some people had trouble finding the channel. YouTube won't let me have a customized URL until I have a certain level of subscribers, and so right now I can't have a customized URL. The URL is at the bottom of this page, and it's also at the top of this page. Now, another thing that happened was some people sent me $1.99, and I wasn't sure if it was for a donation or what it was for, and so, or if they wanted me to sign them up. So I actually contacted them by email. They didn't respond, so I guess it must have been a donation. I offered to refund it if it was supposed to be for a subscription, because I have absolutely no control over subscribers on this channel. If you want to subscribe, you got to click that start free trial button and do whatever YouTube wants you to do in order to get a subscription. I have no control over subscribers, and that's what you're going to have to do if you want to subscribe. I can't even see all of the subscribers. Anyways, back to the topic at hand. This is all Roman law, and it's coming from the Roman cult. To take an instance, when a person, sui juris, is given himself an adoption, or a woman is passed under manus, all their property, incorporeal and corporeal, and all that is due to them is acquired by the adopting father or cooptionator, except those things which perish by capitis diminutio, of which kind are a usufruct, an obligation to services on the part of freedmen contracted by oath, and matters enforceable by a statutable action. Okay, so again, that's where usufruct comes in, okay? So that's capitis diminutio, so they can assault you with their statutes. All statutes are voluntary. They just assault you with it. That's what these Satanist pigs do. Anyways, and that's taken from the commentaries of Gaius and the Rules of Ulpian, translated with notes by this J.T. Abdi, which was in 1874. Anyways, classification of persons. This is section 1. In a book called The Law of Persons by Joseph R. Long, published 1912. It's classification of persons. The Roman law distinguished 3 kinds of personal status. Okay, and so the point being is that it's all status, persons, capitis diminutio is all coming from the Roman cult. That's the point. Capitis diminutio is the destruction or the kaput of legal personality. Capitis diminutio, so to speak, wipes out the former individual and puts a new one in his place. And between the old and new individual, there is, legally speaking, nothing in common. A juristic personality may be thus destroyed in one of 3 ways: by loss of status libertatis. This is the capitis diminutio maxima. By loss of status civitatis, which is a capitis diminutio media, and by severance from the agnatic family. This entails capitis diminutio minima. And this is taken from a text of the history and system of Roman private law. Okay, they assault you with one of their so-called contracts. This is all coming from the Roman cult. These people are Satanists. Black's Law Dictionary, 8th edition. Why do you think that common law evolved in England? It's because they got tired of dealing with the Roman law. And here we have Roman law again. Hello? Slavery is a status under Roman civil law. Capitis diminutio maxima is Roman law. Diminution of a person's legal status as a result of being reduced to slavery. Okay? They assaulted you with their Roman law. Status, standing, condition, situation. A corporation has no status as a citizen outside the jurisdiction where it was created. Why do you think they're assaulting you with their U.S. citizen slave? It's because you're in the District of Columbia. A corporation is a citizen is a corporation. If they're assaulting you with the Sestake Trust, U.S. citizen slave, then you're in United States. And this is an act to enact the Uniform Commercial Code for the District of Columbia and for purposes, other purposes, right? Slavery is what the other purposes are. And that's located at 77 Stat 630, Public Law 88-243. United States is located in the District of Columbia, and that's so a U.S. citizen is in the District of Columbia. With Roman law, status is everything. There's no justice. Justice is for sale, depending on who you are. Status deals with statutes and corporations. With common law, status is nothing. It doesn't matter who you are. Everybody's treated the same. Can't have that. We want these elites going around killing people off because they're considered useless eaters. That's what we want. And so these brain-dead sheeple idiots out there are too stupid to figure out what's going on. This is People versus De La Guerra. It's evident that they have not the political rights which are invested in citizens of the states. They're not constituents of any community in which is vested a sovereign power of government. Their position partakes more of the character of subjects than of citizens. They're subject to the laws of the United States or Canada or wherever, but have no voice in its management. If they're allowed to make laws, the validity of these laws are derived from the sanction of a government in which they're not represented. Mere citizenship they may have, but the political rights of citizenship they cannot enjoy. Okay, U.S. citizen is a slave. And now another little diversion. For great custom websites, domain names, and hosting, go to cubeyard.com. Use coupon code CY172 for 20% off your first order. Cubeyard.com, your source for websites, domain names, and hostings. If you want a secure website that is almost hack-proof, if not hack-proof, then Cubeyard.com is the place to go. The term citizen in the United States is analogous to the term subject in the common law. That's slave, folks. U.S. citizens can murder their unborn children. The unborn are not included within the definition of person as used in the 14th Amendment. And that's the Supreme Court bail priests. And while the 14th Amendment does not create a national citizenship, it has the effect of making that citizenship paramount and dominant instead of derivative and dependent upon state citizenship. The amendment reversed and annulled the original policy of the Constitution, okay? So the 14th Amendment criminally converted citizenship in America into the opposite of what it was intended by the Founding Fathers. And see, the so-called 14th Amendment is unconstitutional video. Citizenship is a political status and may be defined and privilege limited by Congress. And that's, again, the federal cases. The term resident and citizen of the United States is distinguished from a citizen of one of the several states in that the former is a special class of citizen created by Congress. Therefore, U.S. citizens residing in one of the states of the Union are classified as property and franchises of the federal government as an individual entity. A U.S. citizen, upon leaving the District of Columbia, becomes involved in interstate commerce as a resident, does not have common law right to travel of a citizen of one of the several states. Residents, as distinguished from citizens, are aliens who are permitted to take up a permanent abode in the country, being bound to the society by reason of their dwelling in it. They are subject to its laws so long as they remain there, and being protected by it, they must defend it. Although they do not enjoy all the rights of citizenship, they have only certain privileges which law or custom gives them. Permanent residents are those who have been given the right of perpetual residence. They are a sort of a citizen of less privileged character and are subject to the society without enjoying all its advantages. Their children succeed to their status, for the right of perpetual residence given them by the state passes to their children. And this is the Law of Nations by Vattel, Book 1, Chapter 19, Section 213, page 887. One does not necessarily become a non-resident by absconding himself from his place of abode. Hello? What that means is all in what you tell them. Residence, the fact of being officially the statutory presence of an incumbent in a benefice, okay? So, again, it's all for corporations. the right to trial by jury in civil cases guaranteed by the 7th Amendment, and the right to bear arms guaranteed by the 2nd Amendment, have been distinctly held not to be privileged immunities of citizens of the United States guaranteed by the 14th Amendment against abridgment by the states. And in effect, the same decision was made in respect to the guarantee against prosecution, except by indictment of a grand jury contained in the 5th Amendment, and in respect of a right to be confronted by witnesses contained in the 6th Amendment. Okay, so that's U.S. Supreme Court. U.S. citizens do not have any rights. You are a slave if you think you're one of those U.S. citizen slaves. That's what you are. The technical niceties of the common law are not regarded. A jury doesn't figure ordinarily in the trial of an admiralty suit, the verdict of the jury being merely advisory and may be disregarded by the court. The rules of practice may be altered whenever found to be inconvenient or likely to embarrass the business of the court. Yeah, right. Yeah, we're going to railroad this guy, so let's just throw the rules out, or we'll make them up as we go along. A court of admiralty acts upon equitable principles. A libel of information does not require all the technical precision of an indictment at common law. If the allegations describe the offense, it is all that is necessary. And if it is founded upon a statute, okay, statutes are admiralty, folks. It is sufficient if it pursues the words of the law. U.S. Supreme Court. We therefore decline to overrule the opinion of Chief Justice Marshall. We hold that the District of Columbia is not a state within Article 3 of the Constitution. In other words, cases between citizens of the district and those of the states were not included in the catalog of controversies over which Congress could give jurisdiction to the federal courts by virtue of Article 3. In other words, Congress has exclusive legislative jurisdiction over citizens of Washington District of Columbia, and through their plenary power, that's military dictatorship, folks, nationally covers those citizens, even when in one of the several states, as though the district expands for the purpose of regulating its citizens wherever they go throughout the states of the Union. And that's U.S. Supreme Court, 1948. So it doesn't matter where you're at. If you're one of the slaves, you're in District of Columbia. International law rule, adopted for areas under federal legislative jurisdiction. Federalizes state civil law, including common law. The rule serves to federalize not only the statutory, but the common law of a state. State and federal venue discussed. The civil laws effective in an area of exclusive federal jurisdiction are federal laws, notwithstanding their derivation from state laws. And a cause arising under such laws may be brought in or removed to federal district court. So this is taken from jurisdiction over federal areas within the states. Report of the Interdepartmental Committee for the Study of Jurisdiction over Federal Areas within the States, Part 2. A text of the law of legislative jurisdiction submitted to the Attorney General and transmitted to the President June 1957. And this is taken from pages 158 through 165. Therefore, if you're a U.S. citizen, then you're a slave, and all of their statutes apply to U.S. citizens. I don't care if it's state or federal. They apply to U.S. citizens. For the very idea that one may be compelled to hold his life for the means of living or any material right essential to the enjoyment of life at the mere will of another seems to be intolerable in any free country where freedom prevails as being the essence of slavery itself. If you're paying taxes, you're not living in a free country. You are a slave. Taxpayer equals work for nothing, which is slavery. That's exactly what it is. A taxpayer is being forced to work for nothing. Contact information. Boy, it's a good thing this came around because I was starting to get worked up again. My blog is sovereigntyinternational.wordpress.com. My website is sovereigntyinternational.fyi. My email address is engineerwin@yahoo.com. My YouTube profile is Sovereign Living. My Facebook community page, I deleted it because of censorship on the part of Facebook. My private group on Facebook called Sovereignty International is being deleted. It takes time to ban 17,000 people off your group, and I'm not going to let Facebook profit from my hard work. My group, private group at Yahoo is called Administrating Your Public Servants, and my Google private group is called Administrating Your Public Servants. Follow me on Twitter at EngineerWin. The citizens of each state shall entitle to all privileged immunities as citizens in the several states. That's U.S. Constitution, Article 4, Section 2, Clause 1. There's always been two classes of citizens. So again, are you a U.S. citizen or a U.S. state citizen? But the stranger that dwelleth among you shall be one as born among you. Thou shalt love him as thyself, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. There's always been two classes of citizens. Love ye therefore the stranger, for you are strangers in the land of Egypt. Strangers get enslaved, okay? That's exactly what happens. When you have Satanists involved, the strangers get enslaved. And that's because you're not Christian. Okay, you don't have a clue about what it means to be a Christian, because it wouldn't be happening if you were a Christian. The rights of sovereignty extend to all persons and things not privileged that are within the territory. They are extended to all strangers resident therein, not only to those who are naturalized and to those who are domiciled therein, having taken up their abode with the intention of permanent residence, but also to those whose residence is transitory. All strangers are under the protection of the sovereign while they're within his territory and owe a temporary allegiance in return for that protection. Okay, and so again, you're talking about the two classes of citizens, 1873 U.S. Supreme Court. And don't forget to check out my other videos, Bankster Thieves 1, 2, and 3, Judicial Whores, Bankrupt Corporate So-Called Governments, Bar Members 1, 2, and 3, Do-It-Yourself, How Not to Volunteer for the Selective Service in the Draft 1 and 2, Martial Laws Here. Everything's an illusion. Quit participating. Do-it-yourself no sales tax. Do-it-yourself traffic stop. Do-it-yourself estoppel certificates. Do-it-yourself kangaroo courts 1 through 9. Strangers have a social security number, or if you're in Canada, a social insurance number. And this is Deuteronomy 23, 19 to 20. Thou shalt not lend upon usury to thy brother, usury of money, usury of victuals, usury of anything that is lent upon usury. Unto a stranger thou mayest lend upon usury, but unto thy brother thou shalt not lend upon usury. The bankster thieves will not loan their so-called money unless you can prove that you're a stranger. And that's with a social security number. And in doing this, I shall have occasion incidentally to evince how true it is that states and governments were made for man, and at the same time how his creatures and servants at first deceived, next vilified, and at last oppressed their master and maker. Let a state be considered as subordinate to the people, and everything else be subordinate to the state. That's U.S. Supreme Court again. Okay, and how his creatures and servants at first deceived, next vilified, and last oppressed their master and maker. That's what these Satanists are doing to this day. If a nation expects to be ignorant and free in a state of civilization, it expects what never was and never will be. You're the father of the devil, and the lusts of your father you will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he's a liar and the father of it. And that's John 8 and 44. And all fraud is lies is Satanism. But the fearful and unbelieving and abominable and murderers and whoremongers and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. So they're all going to go to hell. And anybody that's a coward that knows this is true and is a coward to say something about it, well, they're going to go to hell too. And so good luck with that. There is no law that says anybody has to use or has to get or use a Social Security number. They may only request a Social Security number. It is a felony for them to compel the disclosure of a Social Security number. If you provide a Social Security number, you're giving evidence that you're a slave. Anything you say can and will be used against you in their so-called court. Social Security number is a badge of slavery. That's exactly what it is. This is Title 42, United States Code, Section 408. In general, whoever discloses, uses, or compels the disclosure of a Social Security number by of any person in violation of the laws of the United States shall be guilty of a felony, and upon conviction thereof shall be fined under Title 18 or imprisoned for not more than 5 years or both. And they request all or part of a Social Security number for a driver's license, a passport, compensation for labor, filing a lawsuit when you don't want to do their extortion, bank accounts, and loans by the banksters. And this is where they get it from. 26 United States Code, Section 6109, supplying of identifying numbers. When required by regulations prescribed by the Secretary, inclusion and returns any person required, furnishing number to other persons, any person, furnishing number to of another person, any person required under authority of this title to make a return statement or other document with respect to another person shall request from such other person. Okay, this is where it's in the code. For purposes of paragraph 1, 2, or 3, the identifying number of an individual or his estate, okay, well, that's what it is, an estate, shall be such individual's Social Security account number. And this is the associating regulations, okay? This is how they work, okay? So if you go back here, this is 26 U.S.C. 6109, and then if you the Code of Federal Regulations, you put a 301 in front of the 6109, so that's 26 Code of Federal Regulations 301.6109 -1, a requirement to furnish one's own number. U.S. persons, every U.S. person who makes under this title a return statement or the document must furnish his own taxpayer identification number as required by the forms and the accompanying instructions, okay? But regulations are for government employees. A requirement to furnish another's number. Every person required under this title must furnish such taxpayer identifying number of other U.S. persons and foreign persons. If the person making the return statement or the document does not know the taxpayer identifying number, such person must request the other person's number. When the person making the return statement or the document does not know the number of the other person and has complied with the request position of this paragraph, such person must sign an affidavit. So that's all that's required, okay, is they have to make an affidavit. So you make an affidavit and give it to them. And this is Article 52 of the Geneva Convention relative to the protection of civilians in the time of war of 1949. And yes, we are under a military occupation everywhere except the original 13 colonies, as found in the Royal Proclamation of 1763, is under a military occupation. And it says, no contract, agreement, or regulation shall impair the right of any worker, whether voluntary or not, and wherever he may be, to apply to the representatives of the protecting power in order to request the said work power's intervention. So there's their regulations, their codes, their rules, and their kangaroo courts is nothing but it's illegal under their own conventions. All measures aimed at creating unemployment or at restricting opportunities offered to workers in an occupied territory in order to induce them to work for the occupying power are prohibited. So they cannot compel you, because the Social Security number is a number for one of their slaves. So now they're basically compelling you to provide evidence that you're one of their slaves in order to work. A Social Security number is hearsay. Computer entries are hearsay. A Social Security number is a badge of slavery. They now have the date of birth linked to a Social Security number, and a date of birth is hearsay. The only reason they want a date of birth is to make sure you're old enough to enter into a contract. So you put that in your affidavit. The only things they can identify if you refuse to provide a Social Security number, they can deny, I should say, that I know about is, well, a bank loan too. A welfare and unemployment insurance and bank loans. So do not, under any circumstances, provide a Social Security number, okay? Unless you want to be a slave, okay? If you like being a slave, then knock yourself out. See the do-it-yourself opening a bank account with no Social Security number video. See the do-it-yourself how to get compensation for labor video. See the Social Security number is a badge of slavery video. Do not, under any circumstances, give them a date of birth. Making an affidavit stating that you have no Social Security number and include a statement that you finished high school in whatever year. And so then they can't deny it, okay? Or at least they'll be guilty of a felony, which is right here. and you basically say, I affirm under penalty of perjury, I do not have a social security number. I've never had a social security number. I have no firsthand knowledge of a date of birth, but I do remember finishing high school in 1975. It is a felony for you to subject me to the deprivation of any rights or privileges under color of your code's rules or regulations. And Title 18, United States Code 242, you got to use their words for these Satanist Baal priest whores, because otherwise they'll deny you a remedy. That's what they intend to do anyways. They want to do everything they can to deny you a remedy. That's what these Satanist whores do. Whoever, under color of any statute, law, ordinance, regulation, or custom, willfully subjects any inhabitant of any state, territory, commonwealth, possession, or district to the deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities secured or protected by the Constitution or laws of the United States shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 1 year or both. Okay? So, you know, Congress doesn't want them in jail too long. They want them to get back out so they can do it some more. Okay? So it's only a year. Okay? In my opinion, they should be put to death. So it's a damn good thing that I'm not involved in it. And this is how you can assert your rights too, okay, if you can get them to sign it. This is a citizen's assertion of legal right to withhold disclosure of social security number, and so you put your name on there, and you don't have a social security number, and you sign it, and you certify that it's true and correct, and it's got a bunch of disclaimers, and you what you do is you get them to sign it, and you give them a copy. Okay, if they'll sign it, you know, that's going to be the hard part, quite frankly, because they'll be given evidence against themselves. But you never know; you might be able to. You'd be real nice to them, and because you can hang them with this. Anyways, end New World Order with global non-compliance. Fight with your wallet to hurt them where it counts. This is the only voice they can hear loud and clear. Do not borrow money from banks and stop using credit cards. Use cash only. Actually, I use a debit card all the time, and that works. Stop giving them your money. Actually, you know, even a debit card is probably, you know, but I use it. Learn to barter for goods. Yes, definitely. Shop locally owned store. Yes, definitely. Avoid large corporate stores such as Walmart, Costco, or any other Chinese import store. What's the cost of low prices from China inflation? Pay now or pay later. It's up to you. Absolutely. I agree completely. And when you shop at your locally owned stores, it might be a little more expensive. But again, the money is going to be in your town. Grow as much food at home as you can, window gardens, patio gardens, or on outside. Do what you can. Buy used items instead of new. Absolutely. You know, I was reading an article one time about the guy that owns IKEA. Okay, he's a billionaire, and people see him shopping at thrift stores all the time. And the point being is that, how do you think they get to be a billionaire? They get to be a billionaire because they don't spend their money. And here you're flaunting your money around buying Lamborghinis and stuff like that. Hello? Anyways, start a business producing real physical goods and sell locally. Be a productive member of society. Start part-time and grow. Recycle old items. Recycling an old item to a new purpose saves money. Be creative. Avoid fast food stores. Fast food is low in brain nutrition and usually corporate owned. Matter of fact, yeah, I would, if I was going to go to a restaurant, it'd be a fast food place. It'd be a local place, that's for sure. Get everyone you know involved, especially those in your neighborhood. Share your garden. Get to know your neighbors. Absolutely. And so, again, there's no law that says that anybody has to have a Social Security number or use one, and quit giving the thing out. There's Social Security's own documents says that there's no law, and it's all by intimidation. These people are Satanists. This is all coming from the Roman cult. It's all about slavery, okay? That's what it is. It's all about slavery. These people are Satanists. This is diabolically evil. We need to start. I want to see some of them do that little dance they do at the end of a common law rope. I'm really looking forward to that, I'll tell you. Anyways, have a great day. Thanks for watching.